the money in the app economy comes from a lot of different sources. It could come from advertising, or it could come from consumer-paid revenue sources. So that's where it comes from primarily. The key drivers, actually, you know what, I'm a believer in the freemium concept. So in other words, free, but supported through some advertising model, but then really truly understanding specific needs of the consumer that they can use to upsell into sort of subscription type of models or one-time transactional fees. Well, I think it's the company that's creating the apps, or the ones who are distributing the content within the apps. So in our case with ABC or Disney, we create television shows, and so it's up to us to understand how our consumers want to consume our content, and making sure that when we develop the app, both the business model as well as the actual design and user interface, that we're actually meeting that specific need. So you know, we're not only just a content company, but we're also a technology company, in that we have to understand the technology behind it in order to deliver on that consumer demand. Yeah, I think it's both marketing. It's both, you know, we look at, within our company, we look at ourselves as product people. So we also develop products and services. So it's actually really up to the company that is generating the revenue to really understand it. So that we work with developers. In fact, in some cases we do it on our own. So with our ABC video player app, we actually did that ourselves. And there are some cases where we actually work with certain developers to create something different. So let me speak to the differences between Apple and the Android stores. The one difference, I think, you know, one is actually a little bit more controlled, right? So in the Apple OS environment, you have a little bit more reviews and process in which certain apps are approved. Now, so while one might actually consider that a fairly closed process, there's actually a level of guarantees of performance and quality and assurance that an end user may want to have at the other end of that store, versus the Android one, which is much more free, which is great, and open, but there's also the risks of potentially, one, there's no filter for, you know, there's no threshold for what the level of performance or quality of an app should be, so there is a tendency to it to be very cluttered. So for us as a content provider, I think the Apple Store provides brands a very good place, because brands that we have a lot of resources, we put a lot of attention. The barriers are higher to get through, but we also know that our presence in the store is probably can be a lot more stronger than something that's a little bit too cluttered in an environment. Well, I'm part of a content company, so I still believe that content companies that can learn how to adapt the technology to drive user consumption of our product, which is content, I would still bet on content and people who have unique intellectual property to distribute on these devices. But then there's also, you know, I think apps who have created a platform that can serve a really useful value to drive better monetization, better user experience, but as an aggregate platform. So platforms and services, I think those are kind of interesting to me. If I were a VC, that's what I would be looking at. I probably wouldn't be looking at developers that have cute applications, you know, like, I don't know, fake lighters or fake beer. Those are cute, but there's not really a sustainable business model behind it. Wow, gee, my favorite app is our own app, the ABC video player, primarily because we were the first to put full episodes on the app environment in terms of being able to monetize it with the same models of advertising that we've seen today, which is within the episodes. And there have been a lot of apps before us that have put full episodes, but we were the first to actually be able to insert advertising and create a real, I think, a viable long-term business model for video on the app economy. So I think that's one of my favorites. I will say though, other than just our own app, I actually do like Flipboard. So this morning we saw Flipboards, and what I thought was very interesting about that was it was an app that created or turned social media into something more profound than one would actually think that people had to say. I was just telling someone that I've never seen status updates highlighted in such a elevated way, but that actually kind of was entertaining as opposed to just the standard feeds of status updates that come through.
So professionalized, user-generated.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting because they're posting things that could be pretty interesting to me, and it's just kind of highlighted a different way of how distribution of media content can actually happen.